Vision social media platforms on X, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. But also you can download Google Data Vision from the Play Store and also have it on your screen, on your phone screen, so that you can always watch the Christian programs all the time. But also our telephone number will be displayed so that you can give us your input, and then we'll learn from you about the new HIV prevalences in the country, and how actually, in case you may be there wanting to break a certain stigma, some myths or misconceptions around the persons with this. But of course we know, despite the disease has been there for a long time, people still believe in simple things that may not be true. That maybe it is if you share a handkerchief, if you hug each other, all those simple areas, and so much more. Some people may have that bias around those persons with HIV/AIDS, but which is not true. Therefore, I inspire you to join us live on Google Data Vision so that you can share insights and then you can interact together. Miss Miranda.
Yes, please.
You okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now, you're going to take us through a few. You want to tell us about how adults and young girls are contracting actually HIV in Uganda right now. Please go ahead.
So I think one of the things that we ignore is the fact that young girls are very sexually active. Yeah, I know it's something that we don't even want to think about as parents, as guardians, you know, CSOs, cultural leaders, religious leaders, but the reality on ground is that young girls are very inquisitive. They are inquisitive in such a way that they want to find out exactly what happens, you know, when you have sex. Yeah, and you see, while growing up, something they stop you from doing without giving you reasons as to why you might want to end up doing it. So it's important that we create spaces where we share age appropriate information. You see, sharing information about sexual health, reproductive health does not necessarily mean that you're spoiling someone. You're actually letting them know that if you have sex at a young age, these are the consequences. So they have to know that if I do this, I'm going to have a baby. Am I ready to have one? Is my body well developed enough to have one? If I have sex, and in this case we're looking at maybe unprotected sex, there is a possibility that you're going to catch an STI, you're going to get AIDS, HIV, which is really, you know, something that we should do. You know, we shouldn't shy away from these conversations. Sometimes they're a little bit complicated to have, but better safe than sorry. And then there's also poverty. Poverty drives people to do, you know, the most. So if this young girl cannot afford, you know, a nice thing that she has seen with her friend, now remember, peer to peer, it's very easy for you to do something that your friend has told you to do. So you know, she's going to tell you, I got an iPhone. How? I went to this guy, he said he liked me, so we had sex and he gave me the iPhone. So you're telling your friend, she is definitely going to do what you have done. So it is very important. And also, I'm not saying that this information should only be given to girls, you know, even boys, because sometimes they're not even having sex with, you know, adults. It's their fellow young people. So let them know what the repercussions are. Let's not shy away. Yes, abstinence is good, but what happens if people are not abstaining, which we know. Even now, when you look back at school days, doctor, there are things you used to see in class and you're like, what is happening? Like, are people really doing this? So let's be realistic. Yes, we can lead with abstinence because that's what we want, but then when it comes to reality, it's something different. So it's important for us not to, for lack of a better word, pretend or bury our heads in the sand. Let's have conversations with these kids. Let them know what happens when you have unprotected sex and all the consequences and repercussions.
I am just seeing this in the biblical version actually, because you know, everything needs to be known. The repercussions need to be put on emphasis. Whether it is protected or not protected, it is all sex. What should these people do, even away from abstaining? First, tell us the repercussions of having sex, or whether protected or not protected, so that people can know why young people should protect themselves, at least against sex.
like I had not to protect themselves against sex. Yeah, but like I had mentioned earlier, and like you've also alluded to the fact that everything has repercussions, even from the Bible. Abstinence is good and it's okay. You don't have to have sex if you don't need to. But when you have it, what happens? At a young age, you get pregnant. Your body is not ready. You could destroy your, uterus, certain things will happen to you and your life may never be the same again. If you're lucky and you get, back on track, well and good. But if you're not, what does that mean? Now, if you contract HIV at that young age, what I know for sure is that even at an older age, you're still mentally unstable in a way. Yeah, because this is something you're living with for forever. Yeah,
psychologically, socially.
Exactly, emotionally, and the stigma that comes with it. Because someone even just hearing, much as we're saying, we are embracing inclusion, we welcome people that live, positively, there's still that one person who will say, hey, man, there's a girl there, she's sick. And before you know it, it's all over the place. Then therein goes, your mental health in the gutter. Yeah. So it's a lot of things. I'll give an example of when you say you're ready to have a baby. When you're thinking about the idea of having a baby, you're ready. When it actually happens, you're thinking, hey, am I ready? Do I surely want to do this? Even when you're an adult. So imagine as a child, and the worst could happen. You get pregnant, you contract HIV. How are you going to handle that? And, we know that some parents haven't yet reached a level where they say, my child is my child, let them come. There's a possibility of sending you away from home. The other things, you're going to drop out of school. If you're lucky enough, you will go back. If you're not, that means, there's a way your growth has stopped. Yeah. So it's, bigger than just us telling kids or young people, like, don't just have sex, don't do this, don't do that. We just have to ensure that the consequences are very clear and, for them to be able to take them on and have them at the back of their minds that, what, if I do this in an unsafe way without information, the worst is going to happen.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Miranda, for the good elaboration and about how young people cannot be stopped despite we give them our own health messages.
Yeah.
Now, we want to look into, we've seen a good decline for 60% from 2010, 2020, where I've seen in 2010 they registered 94,000 new cases, and in 2020 38,000 new cases. That's a 60%. What could be some of those strategies that helped reduction of HIV that maybe we've forgotten because we've seen there is a rise in HIV prevalence apparently in the country? Yeah.
So I think people are embracing protection. I think that's one of the things that's being done, because at the end of the day, much as there are still some reckless people, you will still meet someone who will tell you, even when they've not gone to school, they will tell you, man, I have to be safe. I can't be playing with my life. Then the testing. Now, the Ministry of Health has a campaign that has been running throughout the 16 days of activism about the self-testing kit. So the trauma or the fear and stigma that came with going to the clinic, now people are doing it on their own. So they have that confidentiality, and then you find a way to manage your pressure in there. And then there has been an increment in youth-friendly corners, because I think back then, a young person, if you have sex and you're not sure about what the status of the person, you don't know where to go. And it's very easy for you to say, I cannot go there, there is an adult. Or that woman, that nurse is a friend to my mom. That doctor will tell my mom. But now, there are these youth-friendly corners, and as SRH Alliance Uganda, that's something we really advocate for. And these youth-friendly corners now have younger doctors who you can relate with, someone who is not going to judge you or even report you. So I think that has helped us to be able to enable young people access, the information and services that they need. Yeah, I also feel like the Ministry of Health and the government of Uganda has done a great job. You know, when there is reduction, that means there's something right being done. The cases of mother to child transmission have really reduced. Why? Because now when mothers get to know that they are living, you know, with HIV or they are infected, and usually, unfortunately, mothers get to know this in the hospital. Probably they've gone for antenatal, so that's when they get to learn that, oh my God, I am sick. Now, in that moment, the medical practitioner quickly tells you what it is you have to do to ensure that your child does not. Exactly. So this, and then there is PrEP and PEP, you know, what you take after, if you're not sure of the status of, you know, the person you've had sex with, what you take before for the discordant couples, you know, all this information out there and being accessible to people has really helped, you know, tone down or reduce the infection rates. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Miss Miranda. Of course, we are still talking about HIV prevalence in the country. You may be there wondering why we are talking about HIV prevalence and AIDS. It's because 2024 we've recorded again a high number of persons or new cases, actually new infections, and we are trying to navigate, seeing the way we are going for holidays, especially the Christmas, Miss Miranda.
Yeah.
I don't know if you think of Christmas, though I think about it.
How do you think about it?
What do you think about Christmas?
Well,
in relation to HIV.
I think it's enjoyment. People are just, let me use the young people terms, wilding. Like, you only live once, so enjoy your life to the fullest. Yeah, and when you're enjoying your life, a lot of things come with enjoying your life as a young person, even as an adult. So, you know, that comes with sex. There's sex in the middle if you're not taking alcohol and, you know, going clubbing and all that. Somewhere in there, there's, you know, sexual activity happening between people, both adults and young people. Yeah.
Just like you've said, so basically holidays, as holidays roam around, we have senior 4 vacists, have P7 vacists, have senior 6. We have graduates.
University, yeah.
How people have graduated.
Yeah.
We have people from campus. We have just people in the community. Kwegamba, the whole village is just waiting for you.
Yeah.
It's waiting for you and me and maybe other people.
Well, the village is waiting for each other.
But our cautions are relying on the HIV prevalence. What are you doing to prevent yourself from getting this incurable disease? What are you doing to prevent your family? Remember, the repercussions of this very disease run from an individual to a household, to a community, and to the general country burden. Because remember, even all those drugs and the what, they're all shipped from inside the country, and the country incurs one or more of the expenses. And of course, you don't take this for granted. So the disease does not affect you, because it affects your family and the community where you are living. Because if you do the mapping, actually, for example, I want to use the example of malnutrition. If I'm doing malnutrition mapping, usually find that if I have a child who is malnourished and I live, for example, in Mutungo, you'll find that there's another family that has malnutrition in the same place. You'll find that actually in 10 households in Mutungo, more 4 people are living with malnutrition. Malnutrition is more, you find they're attached to a certain community. So when you say a person who reports to the malnutrition, you may want to know where do they come from. Is he or she the first baby to have malnutrition in their family? Then you want to go and find out. The same to HIV, because if I say I'm positive, you want to know whom did I sleep with in the last few days. And of course, that is all the snowballing method, knowing. Perfect. Now, let's go into quickly, how are we going to ensure that actually, you want to give us a few, what you are doing as SRHR Alliance in prevention of HIV?
So for us, yeah, majorly what we
Or you want to talk about the 16 days of activism, what you've been doing?
Ah, okay, I can get into that. We've had social media campaigns with different messages talking about the different forms of violence, how they affect, you know, the victims and the survivors.
You know, gender-based violence does not only affect women, but also men.
Yeah.
Because we've seen on the social media that now, women are beating men. But I was seeing, I saw that women are beating short men. I was like, I saw it in a professor's X, and then the people posted very many times. I was like, I tell what did the short men do? Leaving that aside, the 16 days of activism run not only to the women but also for men in general.
Yeah.
So what do you do in the 16 days of activism?
Yeah. So of course sometimes it feels like we leave out the men, but you see these issues, there is a way, and I'm not even just taking that side because I'm a woman. I'm just saying there's a way these issues affect women and girls, and they really affect them to the core. It is very rare, I would like to say, to find a man who the wife has told don't work. Is that really there? I feel like those are very rare cases.
Yes, when the woman is a boss lady. She can tell you, please sit down, I'll take care of everything.
Are you sure? I just said a sugar money.
Maybe in 100,000 you can find like 2.
Exactly.
Not in Uganda.
Yeah.
There. If you are there in Uganda, please.
Yeah. So I'm not downplaying the violence that men face, and we don't want that to happen. Violence is violence. It's a violation of human rights. It doesn't matter whether you are a woman or a man. As long as you've been violated in any way, it is wrong, and justice should be served to whoever has experienced any form of violence. But getting back to that, we kicked off our 16 days of activism with a media cafe, and in that media cafe we invited a couple of journalists, and we also had a panel discussion where we had a representative from the police of Uganda, we had someone from the Ministry of Gender, we had someone from a CSO, we had a young person, and we also had a religious leader. So they all gave their views in that regard, and what we're happy about was the fact that they all mentioned, and this even coming from a religious leader, that don't die in the marriage. If they are beating you or relationship, leave. And how we really think religious leaders are not supposed to preach that, leave or divorce or whatever, but it just felt good to know that there has been some progress. It's no longer be there, guma, keep quiet, everything will be okay, people outside shouldn't know what's happening.
Won't that create more divorces? Because now I've seen, because even our parents, what I think is that when you enter an institution of marriage, it's a different institution.
Yeah.
But why would they beat you in a relationship? I'm only focusing on marriage. For relationship, when they beat you, please, that's not your future place that God has destined for you. I'm talking about marriage.
People are very complicated, but even boyfriends and girlfriends, university didn't tell those stories.
Run.
But the trauma that comes with that.
I think actually God is the one punishing you.
Are you sure? Which kind of God are you serving?
They beat you.
No, I don't think
now,
so.
In marriage, if simple issues, you need to consult God. You don't just need to kunova. You don't leave marriage. No, because I'm thinking our parents, they lived longer because they persisted some of the things.
Let me ask you. Dr. Daniel, I don't think I agree with you on this.
Please share.
Do you know what
was shared on
okay, we shall have this conversation after. Yeah. So we in that media cafe, we had journalists around, we interacted with them, and we also encouraged them to do, better reporting, to focus on the issues, because sometimes we appreciate the work they do, but sometimes the language they use lacks. Now, for instance, this issue between the Haji and the Hajat and all that, at some point it stopped being about the child that had been defiled. It became a media sensation. It just became, we call it tea, something when you check online you say, what do you story, we'll get that, that kind of thing. But remember, there is an issue there. There's some sexual violence in there. So how are we forgetting that child who experienced that, and we are now focusing on their marriage as adults? Don't you think our role should be to maybe see how we can get to the bottom of that? Anyways, I don't want to go off the point, because that was something that took the country by storm. But you know, that media cafe was intended to just put out that information and remind people that it is really important for us to ensure that we create a safe space for women. But also, even as leaders, what are we doing to ensure that survivors and victims get justice? Because at the end of the day, that is our role. So it's important that in whatever it is we do, we keep those things at the back of our mind. We also had social media campaigns, like I had mentioned. We have a group of, you know, influencers that we work with to share this information. Of course, even our partners had quite a number of activities, you know, dialogues and all, to just ensure that they create awareness about, you know, violence, its forms. Do you know that sometimes there are people who think violence is only physical? Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, when someone tells you, you know, I fight with, you know, my partner, and when they get angry, they don't talk to me. The fight, I don't mean physical. I mean, you know, like, you know, just arguments and all. And they don't talk to me for a week. Doctor, think about that. How are you living with someone in a house and they have not talked to you for a whole week? Personally, for me, when people don't talk to me, I feel very disturbed. I cannot settle. I'm always thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I'm emotionally not okay until we get to a point where we can sort something out. So even the emotional, you know, pain that comes with you just being with someone who has decided not to talk to you because they don't agree about something is extremely bad, and that is violence enough. So, you know, this kind of, you know, information that we put out there helps to just tell people that, you know what, even when you have not been beaten or physically assaulted, you have been violated in a way. Even just walking downtown or on the road and a guy just grabs you, you know, any part of your body, they're assaulting you. That's violence. If you've not asked for consent, then you can't touch me. Yeah. Then the other issue is marital rape. And I know that is something that people don't even want to talk about, because you know what? We believe if you're married and your husband wants to have sex, you must have sex. But there are days you're not really up to it. So if they use force, that is rape. That is once again a violation. Yeah. So, you know, very many things happened. We had some radio talk shows, upcountry. You don't want to leave that.
No.
Yeah, we had some radio talk shows. We had some TV talk shows that were still, you know, just, you know, talking about the 16 days of activism. And also we've done quite a lot during this time to create awareness, to, you know, help people know what it is they are, you know, supposed to do, and then for them to learn and understand that violence is just bigger than, you know, it being physical.
Wow, thank you so much for raising awareness around the 16 days of activism. They are very, very important. And of course, I want to thank each actually organization that did some in one way or another to ensure that Ugandans are aware of what gender-based violence is in forms of sexual and other related, but not only focusing on women but also men, just because men we need justice. Men we need justice.
I think men, you don't
and
speak.
I want to thank Sehad. Yes, I want to thank Sehad, and I send you my regards, Sehad Uganda. Of course, and I want to invite you to join our social media platforms, but also send your comments, your opinions. As we go for a short quick break, I invite you to send in your questions and be ready to start calling when we come back. See you shortly.